Hi, today I'm going to read Numbers 28 to 30 and Psalms 49 for the one story that leads to Jesus' Bible reading plan. The Israelite camp at the Jordan River poised to march into and claim God's promised land on the other side. When they settle in the land, they will need rhythms and reminders of God's faithfulness. They have God's name as a reminder of who He is. Now, he gives them further instructions for the feast days that order their calendar. These festivals orient their lives to the story of God's redemption. Each time the Israelites eat unleavened bread at Passover, they will remember the night in Egypt when God rescued them from slavery. Each time the Israelites lay their grain on the altar for the Festival of Weeks, they will remember that their abundant harvests are a gift from God. Each time the Israelites hear the blast of the ram's horn at the Festival of Trumpets, they will remember God's voice thundering from Mount Sinai as they became covenant partners. Each time they humble themselves on the Day of Atonement, they will remember God's gracious ongoing forgiveness. And each time the Israelites spend a week sleeping in temporary shelters for the Festival of Booths, they will remember how God brought them safely through the wilderness to the land of abundance. By reliving these foundational events year after year, the Israelites declare who they are and who their God is. Watch the video to learn about the name of God, about the name God uses when revealing himself to Israel.
For thousands of years, every morning and evening, Jewish people have prayed these well known words as a way of expressing their devotion to God. They're called the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. And as for you, you shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your strength. We're going to look at the second key word here, Lord, written in all capital letters. This is the personal name of Israel's God. We first learn the meaning of this name in the story of Moses and the burning bush in the book of Exodus chapter 3. God appears to Moses and he commissions him to liberate the Israelites from slavery. And so Moses wonders, what if people ask the name of the God who has sent me? And so God responds, tell them, Ehyeh has sent me to you. Now, that Hebrew word Ehyeh means I will be. In other words, God's name means that he is the one who is and who will be. God's existence doesn't depend on anyone or anything else. This God simply is. But it will sound kind of strange for Moses to go say to the Israelites, I will be has sent me to you. Only God can say, I will be. So in the next sentence, God tells Moses the version he should say aloud, Yahweh, the God of our ancestors, he has sent me to you. Now, that word Yahweh is the ancient Hebrew form of the verb he will be. And this is the personal name of the God of Israel. It appears over 6,500 times in the Old Testament. Now, here's what's interesting. Over the centuries, Israelites wanted to honor the sacred nature of this divine name. So, as they read the Hebrew Bible aloud and they came to this name, they stopped saying Yahweh and instead started saying the Hebrew word for Lord, which is Adonai. Now, this practice has been continued throughout the centuries, and so later, when people started translating the Bible into English, they adopted the same practice. Instead of spelling out the divine name, they translated it as Lord, spelled in all capital letters. Okay, you got that? Good, because there's more. Ancient Jewish scribes wanted to prevent anyone from even accidentally saying this name aloud when you read the Hebrew Bible. And so they came up with a visual device to remind you to make sure you say Adonai. They took the 4 consonant letters of the divine name. These letters correspond to our English letters YHWH. Then they inserted the 3 vowels from the word Adonai and combined these together to create an artificial hybrid word, which if you pronounced it, it would say Yahuwah, but no Israelite ever said Yahuwah. It's simply a visual reminder to say the word Adonai. Now, it gets more interesting. Much later, Christian scribes came along who didn't know that Yahuwah was an artificial word, and so they began to say it aloud and spell it in their writings. This is the word that eventually entered into English as Jehovah. It's a word many people still use today. But the main thing is, the word Lord in all capital letters is an indication of the divine name. Don't confuse it with the word Lord in your English translations that's not in all capital letters. That is the actual Hebrew word Adon, which just means Lord or master. This word can refer to people like kings, or the master of a servant, even a shepherd over his sheep. And sometimes biblical authors will use this word to refer to God, like in the phrases, the Lord of all the earth, or the Lord of lords. But behind all of these words, Yehovah, Lord, Adonai, stands the original divine name of the God of Israel. It refers to the one who was, who is, and who forever will be.
Thanks for watching this word study video. It was the second in a 6-part series on the Shema, and we have a lot more videos on our website, thebibleproject.com.
All right. Moving on to Numbers 28. Daily offerings. The Lord said to Moses, "Give this command to the Israelites and say to them, make sure that you present to me at the appointed time my food offerings as an aroma pleasing to me. Say to them, this is a food offering you are to present to the Lord, 2 lambs, a year old without defect, a regular burnt offering each day. Offer 1 lamb in the morning and the other at twilight, together with a grain offering of 1/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with 1/4 of a hin of oil pressed from pressed olives. This is the regular burnt offering instituted at Mount Sinai as a pleasing aroma, a food offering presented to the Lord. The accompanying drink offering is to be 1/4 of a hin of fermented drink with each lamb. Pour out the drink offering to the Lord at the sanctuary. Offer the second lamb at twilight, along with the same kind of grain offering and drink offering that you offer in the morning. This is a food offering, an aroma pleasing to the Lord." Sabbath offerings. On the Sabbath day, make an offering of 2 lambs a year old without defect, together with its drink offering and a grain offering of 2/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with olive oil. This is the burnt offering for every Sabbath, in addition to the regular burnt offering and its drink offering. Monthly offerings. On the first of every month, present to the Lord a burnt offering of 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 male lambs a year old, all without defect. With each bull there is to be a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of the finest flour, mixed with oil. With the ram, a grain offering of 2/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with oil, and with each lamb a grain offering of 1/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with oil. This is a burnt offering, a pleasing aroma, a food offering presented to the Lord. With each bull there is to be a drink offering of 1/2 a hin of wine. With the ram, a third of a hin, and with each lamb 1/4 of a hin. This is the monthly burnt offering to be made at each new moon during the year. Besides the regular burnt offering with its drink offering, 1 male goat is to be presented to the Lord as a sin offering. The Passover. On the 14th day of the first month of the Lord's Passover is to be held. On the 15th day of the month there is to be a festival. For 7 days eat bread made without yeast. On the first day hold a sacred assembly and do no regular work. Present to the Lord a food offering consisting of burnt offering of 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 male lambs a year old, all without defect. With each bull offer a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with oil. With the ram 2/10, and with each of the 7 lambs 1/10. Include 1 male goat as a sin offering to make atonement for you. Offer these in addition to the regular morning burnt offering. In this way, present the food offering every day for 7 days as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. It is to be offered in addition to the regular burnt offering and its drink offering. On the seventh day, hold the sacred assembly and do no regular work. The Festival of Weeks. On the day of first fruits, when you present to the Lord an offering of new grain during the Festival of Weeks, hold a sacred assembly and do no regular work. Present a burnt offering of 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 male lambs a year old as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. With each bull, there is to be a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with oil, with the ram 2/10, and with each of the 7 lambs 1/10. Include 1 male goat to make atonement for you. Offer these together with their drink offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering and its grain offering. Be sure the animals are without defect. All right, Numbers 29, the Festival of Trumpets. On the first day of the 7th month, hold a sacred assembly and do no regular work. It is the day for you to sound the trumpets, and as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, offer a burnt offering of 1 young bull, 1 ram, and 7 male lambs a year old, all without defect. With the bull, offer a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with olive oil. With the ram 2/10, and with each of the 7 lambs 1/10. Include 1 male goat as a sin offering to make atonement for you. These are in addition to the monthly and daily burnt offerings with their grain offerings and drink offerings as specified. They are food offerings presented to the Lord, a pleasing aroma. The Day of Atonement. On the 10th day of the 7th month, hold a sacred assembly. You must deny yourself and do no work. Present as an aroma pleasing to the Lord a burnt offering of 1 young bull, 1 ram, and 7 male lambs a year old, all without defect. With the bull, offer a grain offering of 3/10 of a ephah of the finest flour mixed with oil. With the ram 2/10, and with each of the 7 lambs 1/10. Include 1 male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the sin offering for atonement and the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and their drink offerings. The Festival of Tabernacles. On the 15th day of the 7th month, hold a sacred assembly and do no regular work. Celebrate a festival to the Lord for 7 days. Present as an aroma pleasing to the Lord a food offering consisting of a burnt offering of 13 young bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male lambs a year old, all without defect. With each of the 13 bulls, offer a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with oil. With each of the 2 rams, 2/10, and with each of the 14 lambs, 1/10. Include 1 male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and drink offering. On the 2nd day, offer 12 young bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male lambs a year old, all without defect. With the bulls, rams, and lambs, offer their grain offerings and drink offerings according to the number specified. Include 1 male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and their drink offerings. On the third day, offer 11 bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male lambs a year old, all without defects. With the bull, rams, and lambs, offer their grain offerings and drink offerings according to the number specified. Include 1 male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and drink offering. On the 4th day, offer 10 bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male lambs a year old, all without defect. With the bulls, the rams, and lambs, offer their grain offerings and drink offerings according to the number specified. Include 1 male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and drink offering. On the 5th day, offer 9 bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male lambs a year old, all without defect. With the bulls, rams, and lambs, offer their grain offerings and drink offerings according to the number specified. Include 1 male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and its drink offering. On the 6th day, offer 8 bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male lambs a year old, all without defect. With the bulls, rams, and lambs, offer their grain offerings and drink offerings according to the number specified. Include 1 male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and drink offering. On the 7th day, offer 7 bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male lambs a year old, all without defect. With the bulls, rams, and lambs, offer their grain offering and drink offerings according to the number specified. Include 1 male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and drink offering. On the 8th day, hold a special assembly and do no regular work. Present as an aroma pleasing to the Lord a food offering consisting of a burnt offering of 1 bull, 1 ram, and 7 male lambs a year old, all without defect. With the bull, the ram, and the lambs, offer their grain offerings and drink offerings according to the number specified. Include 1 male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and drink offering. In addition to what you vow and your free will offerings, offer these to the Lord at your appointed festivals, your burnt offerings, grain offerings, drink offerings, and fellowship offerings. Moses told the Israelites all that the Lord commanded him. All right, moving on to Numbers 30. But before that, let me read this section. How did the Israelites deal with the complexities of an annual calendar? Most people groups of the ancient world calculate months by the cycle of the moon. Each new moon marked the beginning of a new month. However, the moon completes 1 revolution around the earth in only about 29.5 days, so the lunar year of 12 lunar months is only 354 days long, somewhat shorter than the solar year of 365.25 days. Only a few years the month would begin to misalign with their associated seasons on a lunar calendar. This is no doubt caused great confusion in matters such as setting a schedule of annual festivals or creating an agricultural calendar. The Babylonians periodically added days to the year in order to realign the solar and lunar years. The Assyrians, however, allowed the lunar months to fall behind the solar year until finally adopting the Babylonian system. The Egyptians did not follow a lunar year, but divided the year into 12 equal months, each with 30 days, and added 5 extra days at the end of the year. The Jewish calendar, which was similar to the Babylonian counterpart, derived the names of the months from the Babylonian names. The first month of the Jewish calendar, Nisan, corresponds to the Canaanite Abib. These names sometimes appear in the Bible, although most months mentioned are simply designated by number. A 13th month is added in 7 of every 19 years to keep the calendar synchronized with the agricultural seasons. Some questions exist about whether the Israelites began their calendar year in the spring or fall. The first day of the 7th month Tishri is designated for the Feast of Trumpets, and that same date eventually became fixed as the day of the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah. This suggests an autumnal new year. However, most evidence points to the spring being the season of new year. Most significantly, Nisan, which begins in March and ends in April, is routinely called the first month in the Bible. Thus, it appears the Israelites began their calendar year in the spring but followed the agricultural year that went from autumn to autumn. The Gezer calendar, for example, reflects the agricultural year. To explain this difference using a modern analogy, our calendar year begins on January 1st, but many institutions and nations run on a fiscal year calendar that begins and ends on different dates. Scholars also disagree about whether the Israelites regarded evening as or morning as the beginning of the day. Most evidence suggests the evening. The Israelites observed a 7-day week, and the Roman Empire officially adopted the 7-day week during the reign of Constantine in AD 321. Enumerating years during ancient times sometimes caused great confusion because there was no universally accepted fixed point for a beginning of year one. The Romans counted from the commonly accepted date of the founding of Rome, but ancient Israel, like most other Near Eastern nations, numbered years according to the reign of kings, which of course overlapped and varied in terms of duration. Further, confusion resulted from the fact that a king's first year could be either the year during which he became king or the first full year of his reign after New Year's Day. Wow, that is interesting. All right, vows, Numbers 30. Moses said to the heads of the tribes of Israel, this is what the Lord commands. When a man makes a vow to the Lord or takes an oath to obligate himself by a pledge, he must not break his word, but must do everything he said. When a young woman still living in her father's household makes a vow to the Lord or obligates herself by a pledge, and her father hears about her vow or pledge but says nothing to her, then all her vows and every pledge by which she has obligated herself will stand. But if her father forbids her when he hears about it, none of her vows or pledges by which she obligated herself will stand. The Lord will release her because her father has forbidden her. If she marries after she makes a vow, or after her lips utter a rash promise by which she obligates herself, and her husband hears about it, but says nothing to her, then her vow or pledges by which she obligated herself will stand. But if her husband forbids her when he hears about it, he nullifies the vow and obligates her, or the rash promise by which she obligates herself, and the Lord will release her. Any vow or obligation taken by a widow or divorced woman will be binding on her. If a woman living with her husband makes a vow or obligates herself by a pledge under oath, and her husband hears about it but says nothing to her and does not forbid her, then all her vows or the pledges by which she obligated herself will stand. But if her husband nullifies them when he hears about them, then none of her vows or pledges that came from her lips will stand. Her husband has nullified them, and the Lord will release her. Her husband may confirm or nullify any vow she makes or any sworn pledges to deny herself. But if her husband says nothing to her about it from day to day, then he confirms all of her vows or the pledge binding on her. He confirms them by saying nothing to her when he hears about them. If, however, he nullifies them sometime after he hears about them, then he must bear the consequences of her wrongdoing. That these are the regulations the Lord gave to Moses concerning relationships between a man and his wife, and between a father and his young daughter still living at home. All right, moving on to Psalms. Unless there's another section here, which there is. So let me read this. Why are vows taken so seriously in the Bible? Trust is essential for relationships and society to function. We trust a friend to meet us when she says she will. We trust a business partner to correctly file our corporate taxes. We trust a bank to protect our money. We trust a spouse to be faithful. Trust stems from a person's word, his vow, or promises, and those vows are only as sure as the person who gives them. When we consider God, we know that his promises are a sure thing. The Bible highlights promises because they are the basis on which Judaism and Christianity are built. God promises many things, and throughout Scripture, we can clearly trace that he has always does exactly what he says he will do, exactly when he says he will do it. He promised Abraham that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars. And despite Abraham and Sarah's incredulity and infertility, God delivered on his promise. The Lord's promise to Abraham in Genesis 22 was made with an oath to emphasize its permanence. The author of Hebrew notes, because God wanted to make the unchanging nature of his purpose very clear to the heirs of what was promised, he confirmed it with an oath. Unfortunately, humans also promise many things, both to God and to each other, but we often fail to keep them despite our good intentions. The Bible teaches us lessons about trust by comparing people's weak, broken vows with God's faithful, fulfilled vows. Realizing the frailty of human vows allows us to contrast them to how special God's promises are and to take them seriously as we read the Bible. His promises are as sure as he is. Cool. And now to Psalms. All right, Psalms 49. For the director of music of the sons of Korah, a psalm. Hear this, all you peoples, listen, all who live in this world, both low and high, rich and poor alike. My mouth will speak words of wisdom. The meditation of my heart will give you understanding. I will turn my ear to a proverb. With the harp I will expound my riddle. Why should I fear when evil days come, when wicked deceivers surround me? Those who trust in their wealth and boast of their great riches. No one can redeem the life of another or give to God a ransom for them. The ransom for a life is costly. No payment is ever enough, so that they should live on forever and not see decay. For all can see that the wise die, that the foolish and the senseless also perish, leaving their wealth to others. Their tombs will remain their houses forever, their dwellings for endless generations, though they had named lands after themselves. People, despite their wealth, do not endure. They are like the beasts that perish. This is the fate of those who trust in themselves and of their followers who approve their sayings. They are like sheep and are destined to die. Death will be their shepherd, but the upright will prevail over them in the morning. Their forms will decay in the grave, far from their princely mansions. But God will redeem me from the realm of the dead. He will surely take me to himself. Do not be overawed when others grow rich, when the splendor of their houses increases, for they will take nothing with them when they die. Their splendor will not descend with them, though while they live they count themselves blessed, and people praise you when you prosper. They will join those who have gone before them, who will never again see the light of life. People who have wealth but lack understanding are like the beasts that perish. I'm going to read the section on Psalm 49, verse 15. So, what does it say? What does the prophecy say about Jesus? The crux of the Christian faith and one of the most important narratives in the Bible is Jesus' resurrection. Without it, the disciples would have lost hope. Jesus would have been written off as a fraud rather than the Son of God. Christianity never would have been born, and history would not be the same. However, as all four Gospels recount, and the rest of the New Testament confirms, the resurrection did happen, and some Bible commenters have identified Psalms 49:15 as a prophecy of it. During Jesus' ministry, he often alluded to the fact that he would die and be resurrected. Packed in the two lines of Psalm 49:15, these commenters argue are the truths of the resurrection and ascension. This verse predicts that Jesus would die, but then be redeemed from the grave or brought back to life. The promise he will surely take me to himself predicts Jesus' ascension after his resurrection when he was taken to heaven to rule forever. Cool. That's all I have for day 49. Cheers.